life is just going really fast these days. There's so much on her plate. When I get home, I've got to get mentally grounded, feel overwhelmed, or lose my mind.
Joanna Gaines, beloved for her creativity and strength, has always brought joy to millions. But when whispers of a serious diagnosis began to surface, concern quickly turned into heartbreak. Her sudden absence left fans unsettled until Chip Gaines, usually full of humor and optimism, shared an emotional update that caught everyone off guard. His message wasn't just touching, it was tearful, raw, and deeply human. What they're facing now goes beyond any renovation project. Stay with us as we uncover the emotional journey behind Joanna's brave new battle. The pain behind Joanna Gaines's bright smile. Long before she became a household name, Joanna Gaines had already learned how to smile through pain. While fans admired her creativity, warmth, and signature style on Fixer Upper, few realized the personal battles she fought behind the scenes. At the height of her success, juggling a hit show, a growing brand, and raising 5 children, Joanna was quietly dealing with a health crisis that had roots far deeper than anyone could imagine. It all started during her high school years in Kansas. Joanna had been an energetic cheerleader, fearless and full of spirit. But one day, during a complicated basket toss routine, something went horribly wrong. Thrown into the air by her teammates, Joanna landed in a way that left her back severely injured. At the time, she didn't grasp the extent of the damage. She pushed through the pain, as most teenagers do, believing it would fade. But it didn't. Instead, the discomfort followed her into adulthood, slowly becoming a constant companion, despite the ache.
You've got some hamster show. What is that?
Mind of Chip
Human
Gaines.
versus hamster.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Joanna poured herself into building a life with her husband, Chip Gaines. Together, they transformed dilapidated houses into dream homes and built a media empire that resonated with millions. Behind her radiant on-screen presence, however, was a woman often battling pain that refused to let go. By 2001, the pain had become unbearable. Joanna underwent her first microdiscectomy, a surgery designed to relieve pressure on spinal nerves by removing a damaged portion of a disc. It brought some relief, but it wasn't permanent. The injury she sustained as a teen had created a lingering problem in her spine that no single procedure could fully resolve. Over the years, as her career soared, so did the discomfort. But Joanna kept going, rarely letting on to the world that anything was wrong. With cameras rolling, projects mounting, and 5 children depending on her, she mastered the art of pushing through. But by 2022, over 2 decades after her first operation, the pain returned with a vengeance. This time, there was no avoiding it. In December, while most families were preparing for the holidays, Joanna was being wheeled into the operating room for a second microdiscectomy. It was a tough time, not just because of the physical strain, but because it interrupted everything she was building. Still, the decision was necessary. Her health could no longer be sidelined. But what's most inspiring isn't just the surgery or the struggle. It's the quiet resilience Joanna showed throughout the ordeal. She never made her pain part of her brand. Instead, she let her work, her family, and her faith speak for her strength. But before diving deep into the details of Joanna Gaines's reasons for leaving her fans in tears, let's take a brief look into her journey from childhood. How Joanna Gaines found her voice before the spotlight. And to fully grasp how Joanna's quiet strength became the foundation of an empire, we need to look beyond the spotlight, to the mix of identity, memory, and love that shaped her long before television screens ever flickered with her name. Joanna Gaines was born in Wichita, Kansas, on April 19, 1978, into a world where the lines between cultures didn't just cross, they collided. With a South Korean mother and an American father of Lebanese-German descent, her childhood was steeped in contrasts. At home, she was wrapped in the warmth of Korean lullabies, Sunday meals blending Eastern spices with Southern comfort, and values shaped by 2 distinct worlds. But outside those walls, things weren't always so harmonious. At school, she often felt like the odd one out, never fully fitting in. That subtle sense of otherness lingered quietly, but it also stirred something powerful inside her, the desire to create spaces that embraced difference and made people feel at home. By the time her family relocated to Texas, Joanna was a curious observer of human nature. Her father opened a tire shop in Waco, where she spent afternoons absorbing the everyday conversations of strangers waiting for oil changes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was revealing. She began noticing how physical spaces shaped emotion, how a simple chair or warm light could soften tension. Long before she found fame, Joanna was developing a design philosophy rooted not in trends, but in empathy. At Baylor University, she studied communications with dreams of becoming a journalist. Internships at local news stations and even at CBS's 48 Hours gave her first-hand experience in fast-paced media environments. She had the talent and the poise, but something didn't feel right. There was a disconnect between chasing stories and creating them. Joanna didn't want to just report on people's lives. She wanted to shape the spaces where those lives happened. And then came Chip. Meeting Chip Gaines in 2001 didn't just change her future, it clarified her purpose. Chip, born in Albuquerque in 1974, had always been a bit of a maverick. He saw opportunity where others saw junk, hope in homes others had given up on. He wasn't polished, but he was magnetic, full of vision and energy that never stopped. When Joanna met him, it wasn't a fairy tale moment. It was two puzzle pieces clicking into place. Their bond wasn't just romantic, it was creative.
We marry these two worlds without the storytellers or the talent on our network feeling.
Joanna's sense of calm and detail grounded Chip's wild spirit and risk-taking nature. When they married in 2003 and settled in Waco, there was no blueprint. They didn't have investors, connections, or even a solid plan. What they had was faith in each other, in their vision, and in the power of home. Magnolia began as a humble venture, flipping homes, salvaging materials, crafting beauty from brokenness. But people didn't just admire their finished projects, they resonated with the story behind them. Joanna's designs felt honest and lived in, echoing the values she was raised on. Chip's willingness to dive headfirst into messy renovations made the impossible feel doable. Together, they offered something deeper than design. They offered hope, particularly in a time when America was recovering from the 2008 housing crisis. When Fixer Upper launched in 2013, the world finally saw what Waco locals had known for years. This wasn't just about paint and pillows, it was about transformation, of homes, of relationships, of self-belief. But long before the show's success, Joanna had already begun creating beauty in overlooked places, using her own life as quiet proof of what's possible when you embrace where you come from and lean into what makes you different. And as Joanna and Chip's bond deepened, how did their quiet vision end up transforming homes across America? Stay tuned to discover the truth. How Joanna and Chip Gaines quietly took over American homes. It started with the simplest of ideas: share the work. Chip and Joanna Gaines had already built a local reputation for their home makeovers, equal parts beauty, utility, and storytelling. With Joanna's warm, earthy aesthetic and Chip's playful energy, the duo began sharing snapshots of their projects on a modest blog. These weren't overly curated images or flashy videos, just honest before and afters, thoughtful captions, and heartfelt advice. But something about it resonated. Soon, those posts began to circulate online. And not long after, they caught the eye of an HGTV producer. In 2012, the network reached out to the couple with a test pilot offer. A few months later, Fixer Upper aired its first full episode in May 2013. Viewers were hooked almost instantly. Unlike many reality renovation shows, there were no gimmicks. Chip and Joanna weren't just fixing houses. They were building dreams on real budgets for real people. Their chemistry felt authentic. The spaces felt attainable. By the time Season 4 aired in 2017, the show had over 5 million viewers per episode, making it one of the most watched cable programs in America. But television was just the beginning. What made the Gaineses stand apart wasn't simply their design sense, it was their values. They didn't chase Los Angeles fame or Manhattan gloss. They stayed rooted in Waco, Texas. And from that grounded location, they launched a movement. Magnolia wasn't just a business, it became a belief system. Centered on simplicity, comfort, and authenticity, It was a response to a fast-paced world that had forgotten how to slow down and feel at home. What started as a humble storefront eventually blossomed into a full-fledged destination known as the Silos.
Today we're in Waco, Texas at the Magnolia Silos complex to test out some of the best offerings at the Magnolia Press coffee shop.
A sprawling property that included a bakery, a cafe, open-air gardens, curated shops, and seasonal events. It became a pilgrimage site, drawing hundreds of thousands annually and breathing new life into the local economy. The expansion didn't stop there. In 2016, Joanna launched Magnolia Journal, a quarterly lifestyle magazine where she served as editor-in-chief. It wasn't just a catalogue of style tips. It carried reflections, family stories, recipes, and soul-searching essays that made readers feel less like consumers and more like community members. It quickly became a top-selling publication across major retailers. Then, in 2017, came a major retail milestone. Teaming up with Target, Joanna and Chip unveiled Hearth and Hand with Magnolia, a line of more than 300 home products, all reflecting Joanna's signature farmhouse feel. The collection blended charm with affordability, and within its first year, it became one of Target's best-selling lines. By 2019, the couple was ready to return to their storytelling roots on a larger scale. They signed a deal with Discovery Inc. to rebrand the DIY network into Magnolia Network, a dedicated channel for renovation, food, and lifestyle programming that reflected their values. Officially launching on January 5, 2022, the network aired new content across cable and streaming platforms like Max, featuring shows such as Restoration Road, The Lost Kitchen, and Family Dinner, along with new versions of Fixer Upper and Joanna's personal series, Mini Rennie. At the heart of this media ecosystem, though, was still Joanna. Her design voice became a cultural compass, her social media presence a daily companion for millions. With over 13 million followers on Instagram, each photo she posted, from a cozy breakfast nook to a heartfelt quote, sparked warmth, conversation, and admiration. Fans weren't just buying furniture, they were buying into a feeling. Magnolia was no longer a single project. It was a lifestyle, a movement, and by 2024, it had grown into a multi-platform brand worth an estimated $50 million. And yet, the Gaineses never traded their down-to-earth roots for the bright lights of Hollywood. Now that we've traced the path that led Joanna and Chip to build a life and empire together, it's time to look at the moment everything changed, the diagnosis that left fans speechless. Joanna Gaines' quiet retreat. In late December 2022, fans scrolling through Instagram were met with an image they hadn't expected. Joanna Gaines, in a hospital gown.
In good spirits, holding up a peace sign as she wears shades and a hospital gown.
Quietly smiling beneath a caption that read, "A little procedure and a long holiday break. Thank you for the kind wishes." The photo looked peaceful, almost routine. But to those who knew her story, or had followed her every project, it said something more. This wasn't just a momentary pause. It was the second time Joanna had undergone surgery to correct an injury that had haunted her since high school. Back then, she was a cheerleader, full of energy and fearlessness, when a basket toss went wrong, and she fell hard. The damage to her lower spine would quietly follow her through college, motherhood, filming, and business meetings. In 2001, not long after graduating from Baylor University, she had her first microdiscectomy. But even as the pain eased, the healing was never complete. Over the years, the strain of daily life, filming long episodes of Fixer Upper, raising 5 children, lifting furniture on camera, only made the condition worse. Viewers never saw it. On screen, Joanna was unstoppable, kneeling to install tiles, moving furniture with ease, walking construction sites for hours. But off-camera, the pain grew louder. In a personal essay published in Magnolia Journal in 2023, she admitted, "The pain started as a whisper, then became louder, then unrelenting. I tried to ignore it, thought I could endure it, like always. Eventually, even she couldn't hide it anymore. Her retreat from public view was subtle at first. Later issues of Magnolia Journal quietly removed her signature opening letter. Television appearances were delayed. Projects like Fixer Upper, the hotel aired without her presence, prompting quiet concern. At first, fans were told it was due to scheduling conflicts, but whispers turned into confirmation. Joanna was recovering, and this time, healing needed to take priority over everything else. By early 2024, longtime readers noticed a shift. The journal's familiar rhythm had changed. There was no editorial from Joanna, no personal reflection. In its place stood a short note from a staff member, gently explaining that this was a season of rest. While no medical details were shared, the absence itself told the story. And in that space, it was Chip Gaines who stepped forward. Not with loud announcements or flashy tributes, but through quiet consistency. His presence steadied the Magnolia brand, but more than that, it moved fans in ways they hadn't expected. And while Joanna stepped back, why did Chip's silent decisions leave fans more shaken than any headline? Stay tuned to find out. Chip Gaines's quiet devotion, the power of stillness. As Joanna stepped back from television sets, design projects, and editors' letters, the world turned toward her husband, expecting updates, public appearances, maybe even reassurances. But Chip Gaines chose something else: stillness. In a world of non-stop engagement, his silence became its own kind of message. There was no media tour, no elaborate statement, just a single photo posted to his personal Instagram in June 2024. The image showed Chip and Joanna walking away from the camera, hand in hand at the Magnolia silos. No filters, no branding, just a short caption. Still here, just slower, but still her. The photo struck a chord. Within hours, it drew over 2 million interactions. Yet Chip said nothing more. He didn't reply to comments. He didn't post follow-ups. He simply disappeared, intentionally. From mid-2024 on, he withdrew from all scheduled appearances. He turned down television invitations, including a highly anticipated Fixer Upper anniversary special and an exclusive Discovery interview about Magnolia Network's future.
If I were to have a birthday party and ask for butter confetti, can y'all do that for me?
One internal source, quoted in House Beautiful, revealed that Chip had personally requested a full 3-month pause on all major brand obligations to focus on family. Even behind the scenes, his absence was felt. In Mini Rennie, a Magnolia Network series Joanna had filmed before her health relapsed, Chip was noticeably missing. It was the first time in more than a decade he hadn't stood beside her in any joint broadcast project. Viewers immediately noticed the shift. It was no longer just a scheduling conflict, it was a choice, deliberate and meaningful. Then, in January 2025, Chip resurfaced with another post. This time, there was no photo, just a simple line of text. I never thought there'd come a day when the best thing I could do was nothing at all, but today that's the right choice. It was raw, honest, and quietly devastating. It swept across social platforms, shared and reshared by fans who felt the weight behind every word. But silence didn't mean inaction. Within the Magnolia circle, stories emerged of Chip showing up for Joanna in the smallest, most consistent ways. A team member shared anonymously on Reddit that Chip had cancelled his full internal calendar, shifted strategy calls to video, and made time to attend Joanna's early morning therapy appointments without fail. He never spoke about it publicly. He didn't need to. In an April 2025 episode of the Magnolia Story audio podcast, Chip finally offered a glimpse into his experience. There are times you can fix the wall, the floor, the roof, but you can't fix the helplessness when the person you love most is hurting. The best thing I can do is be there, not to do anything, just so she knows I'm still there. Fans listened, and many admitted it moved them more than any reveal or design inspiration ever had. His devotion wasn't loud. It was steady. No dramatic comeback announcements, no staged returns, just glimpses, moments here and there of Joanna gradually reappearing, her recovery stitched into quiet steps and calm strength. The legacy she built now shaped just as deeply by what she endured in silence. And as the dust quietly settled, why did Joanna's subtle reappearance spark more questions than answers? Stay with us to find out. Joanna Gaines finds her way back. It happened not on television, not in a grand Magnolia campaign, but at a charity event in mid-May 2025. There, at a Dallas Children's Hospital gala, Joanna appeared on stage for just a few quiet minutes, delivering a symbolic donation. Yet that moment said more than any interview ever could. The room rose to its feet, a minute long standing ovation breaking months of silence. She didn't speak much, but her presence was more than enough. That same week, the Magnolia Journal homepage shifted.
I do feel like with the magazine, it's like giving birth 4 times a year. I feel like...
For the first time in over a year, the editor's letter, usually filled in by another staffer, was replaced with a reflective piece titled, "On Learning to Let Go." It wasn't signed, but fans immediately recognized Joanna's voice in every line. Calm, introspective, and honest. It marked the start of her return, not with headlines, but with heart. Soon after, Magnolia Network updated its site. Projects like Mini Rennie, the show Joanna had paused before her health relapse, were marked currently in production. According to Variety, Joanna had resumed work quietly in April, only part-time and from home, pacing herself in a way that aligned with her new reality. Meanwhile, Chip made his first official appearance in June. A short video with their kids at the silos, casually introducing summer activities. He didn't mention Joanna, but fans noticed the lightness in his voice. After months of silence, it felt like hope. What followed wasn't a media blitz. There were no exclusive documentaries or comeback specials. Instead, the Gaines family restructured everything. Magnolia scaled back on its bigger TV ventures, leaned into sustainable living, and focused more on community-driven models in Waco. It wasn't a step back. It was a deliberate shift toward values that now mattered more than ever. When Joanna returned, she did so on her terms, quietly, gracefully, and with the kind of honesty that had always drawn fans to her. And in doing so, she reminded the world that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it simply looks like showing up, just as you are. So what do you think about their journey? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more heartfelt stories.